What's up, everybody? Welcome to Worlds Cooldown, presented by State Farm, your one-stop wrap-up for all things Worlds. Today, we concluded Group Stage Round Robin 2 for Group B. I'm joined by Raz, Azael, and Mark Z to break down the happenings of the day. Lyric will be joining us in just a bit to talk about JDG's performance as well. But, gents, an interesting day because looking at the schedule coming into the day, it was set up for what could have been some very interesting tiebreakers, either for that top spot or for the second spot, depending on how the earlier games went. But unfortunately, we avoided all that craziness for the sake of hype.
PSG saved us, apparently, or at least saved Damwon from.
Saved?
Huh?
They saved Damwon.
They doomed us.
Yeah, they saved Damwon. You're right. They ruined our viewing experience in terms of the tiebreaker hopefuls.
It's one of those things where JD, you just had to take down PSG if you wanted to continue forward, right? Like, I don't know. Damwon was definitely happy watching that series.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed after seeing, I felt like the JDG that we've all been waiting for finally show up in that last game. You know, they had such hype around their team fighting, all these kinds of things. Damwon was also fighting from behind, making it really scrappy and close. And I was like, sick. If only we could have had it mean something, or we could have had a tiebreaker between them.
Yeah.
It was what I was finally waiting to see. Finally got that matchup, and it's at the end without the narrative push behind it.
Right, yeah, it added insult to injury, really, watching them win that game and knowing what could have been. But with that, Azael, Damwon does move into that first seed, but it's important to note that they did drop one game as they came in undefeated to the day.
They did drop the game, but it's always so hard to know what do you take from that last game, right? There was no implications for either team at that point. They had already locked in first place. Are they actually going to bring what they believe is their A game against a team that they may have to face, in knockout stage later on? You don't really want to show anything at that point if you're Damwon. So do you put more stock in the fact that JDG beat Damwon or the fact that they lost to PSG, right? Do you put more stock in the fact that Damwon slammed 5 games in a row and then after securing first place, lost the game to JDG? It's really hard to know what exactly to take away, I think, from that final game. But overall, Damwon looked monstrous. I still think that they have, throughout the entirety of the group stage, looked like the best team in the tournament.
Yeah, for me, it always comes down to the eye test. Because I've seen games like in the LPL where it's a third place match, and just watching the games, you know that the teams aren't necessarily taking it seriously. But in this case,
third place match this year was something.
It's a chef's kiss. But in this case, I saw both teams, I think for sure JDG elevated in the moment. And then from Damwon, there were great moments. Like, for instance, Beryl finding that one flank play I thought was insane. So, it really, for me, watching it, you could see Damwon when they're behind, finding plays to crawl back into the game, quote unquote. So it was still a high-level game, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think even though they fell behind early on, I was still impressed by the level of team fighting from Damwon, especially Nuggery. He was incredible on the set, which is sometimes hard to look incredible on. It is more straightforward of a kit, but he still had some insane plays, and I think he's stepping up and delivering on the promise that we had last year when he first showed up as being one of the best top laners in the world. Then he's had some struggles. This year, he's really slammed that point home that he is up there as the best in the world potentially, and I can't wait to see him in best of fives when people start getting counter picks back and forth and seeing his full champion pool and what he can really break out.
Azael?
Yeah, I think Damwon, they were playing a serious game. I'm not trying to say by any means that they weren't trying in that game. I just think one of the things that this game felt like it lacked a little bit compared to some of the others was the preparation, the pre-planning that we have seen. When you compare to some of the other games, it felt like both the drafting as well as what they were actually showing on the Rift was incredibly impressive, and I think that when they get to best of 5 stage, I would be so terrified for whoever they play against. I pretty much don't even care who they play against. I'm pretty sure they're going to 3-0 them if they bring the same level of planning and the same level of play that they brought to those first handful of games in the group stage.
And the stat that flew at us, for me, that was shocking, is the 47% forward percentage for him. That has been a constant. Every time I look topside, he is just pressuring a person under turret. Obviously, it's been concocted by the draft, but also if he's given a good lane state, he makes it work. And he has Canyon hovering him consistently. It's just that if you're going up against this team, they will pound you on the top side of the map. And it's frustrating if you're up against them and you have to find a way to combat that. I think they're really smart in the draft of being able to create a positive situation for Nuggery as well.
Well, I think it's amazing to see, that this guy who actually has such an incredible K+A, he is so active, but he also has these monstrous farm advantages that we've been seeing him create. So oftentimes it feels like it's kind of like one or the other, where someone, is really high on the farm, but they're a little bit lower in the kill participation, or they're high in the kill participation, but we say, well, they're sacrificing their farm, they're sacrificing their jungle to get their laners ahead. He's like, oh, actually, you can just do both. You just farm the enemies and then you farm their jungle after they're dead and you take everything. So Canyon has been kind of just running people over, it felt like, in this group stage. And especially, the first performance against JDG, that prep that they showed actually against Kanavi, who a lot of people I think had as the #1 jungler in the world coming into this event, was amazing.
Mark?
Yeah, I was just going to say just how dominant he was on Graves. I don't think he should get that the rest of the tournament. He got it 3 games in a row today and just stomped every single game for the most part. I mean, the last one a little bit less so. But the 13 kill game versus Rogue was pretty crazy to watch.
All right, but be honest with me, Mark. Which champion do you want to give to Canyon?
Is there a way I can trick him into playing like Skarner?
There you go. Okay. All right. Yeah. Here's what we do.
Mind control.
Here's what we do. We get Captain Flowers on a call with Canyon, and I think he is the only person in the world who might be able to convince him to make the pick.
You can tell him about the butt twist, convince him to play it.
Triforce, and just say.
Raz, close us out. Yeah.
Yeah, like Canyon for me, everyone. The most common question I get was like, what's the difference between Damwon last year and this year? And it has been Canyon and the team working together. Canyon last year was the jungler that had high highs, but you would see him in games where he would get caught out randomly, or he would have inconsistent moments. I don't see that anymore. It's that kind of experience that has been injected along the year of like not only having that Worlds performance last time round, but then having the entire year with the squad that I feel like has really had matured him. So I've been really excited watching Canyon play, and it's just been a constant. That's why we're highlighting him. Him and Nuguri for me are going to be the key to this team's success. And we've already seen like players like Beryl and Showmaker have insane moments. So this is like they are a world's favorite next to TOP.
Yeah, a very scary team to say the least. That top side in particular, as you pointed out, 5-1 is where they end the group stages. So missing that undefeated streak. But I really love the point you threw in there, Azael, about the impact of that final match. And so, how much can you really take away from it? We are going to step away for a brief moment. On the other side, Lyric is joining us to talk about all things JD Gaming. More Worlds Cooldown to come after this. Welcome back to Worlds Cooldown, presented by State Farm. We're welcoming LvMao joining us to talk about JD Gaming's performance here on the second round robin.
Yes, just got so much more handsome. Wow.
It did. It really
Wow.
did.
Oh.
Yeah, the whole average went up. How you doing, LvMao?
You know, you guys were talking about it at the start of the day, but a little bit salty after being denied the tiebreaker.
Yeah, I would have thought.
Yeah, I mean, at least it wasn't the tiebreaker to get out of the groups that we had to miss out on yesterday. So your team's still alive here, Lyric. Take what you can get.
That is fair, but man, looking at that game up against PSG, it's so disappointing because if you're a longtime LPL fan, if you're a longtime JDG fan, you know this draft is not JDG at all. Seeing Zoom on the Kale, seeing LvMao on the Karma, didn't make a lot of sense, but great that we pulled through at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely going to raise some eyebrows that against that team in what should have been an expected win, you know, they didn't go with comfort. They didn't go with that sure thing. And then, you know, in a sense, denying themselves that opportunity for the tiebreaker at the end of the day. That said, Azael, I do want to talk about this squad because while, okay, we didn't get that, you know, hype tiebreaker, this is a scary team that has been grouped with a number of the other teams as a tournament favorite, even while being a second seed coming out of this group.
Yeah, I mean, I had them in my top three for Worlds, you know, coming into it, along with Top and Damwon. That's why I was actually so excited for this matchup, and so actually let down after the first time that they played Damwon, where they just got completely dismantled. Because yes, they are a second seed, but we didn't get to see them at MSI. They won in spring in an incredibly contested series against Top. You know, they lost to Top in summer, but it was in a 5-game series. These two teams have been neck and neck in the LPL all year long, and I think people sometimes overlook that and are just saying, yeah, okay, like they're clearly a tier below Top because they are, you know, not the number one seed, but I think that they're very close to on par with them. I don't know if you agree, Lyric, but you know, this is a team that has impressed me all year long, and I have incredibly high expectations for them coming into the event.
Yeah, for me, these two teams were like pound for pound going back and forth. We sold it as, you know, Brain JDG versus Brawn Top Esports, and that's why I think their world showing has been a bit underwhelming, but at the same time, I'm holding out hope that it's 2019 FPX all over again. We're going to get into best of fives. Everything's going to be okay.
Looking towards those best of fives, Raz, let's talk about a couple key players for the squad. We're going both sides of the map. Let's start on the bottom side with LvMao.
Yeah, LvMao, I loved his play since coming in from the LPL, and it's always just been how much of a captain he's been for the team. And it starts with his picks, because I love the call out that Lyric had with his Karma pick, because a lot of the times I know him for his Pantheon, his Bard in particular, like picks that start fights for his team because he gives confidence in comms for his team to know when to go. And I think the brains of the team, it starts with him. And I love the fact that he's been, as you can see from the stats point, being like dictating the vision for his team. So good stuff from him. I expect better as the tournament goes on. He really is an inspirational support.
Without a doubt, a leader for the squad. And for every leader, you're also going to need a carry to direct around the map. And that's where I want to take a look at the top lane. Lyric in particular, that final game of the day on the Camille. Zoom popping off.
Yeah, he just a great Camille performance all day long. We saw it up against Rogue in their first game. A lot of great flanks coming off. And then in the second game, a lot of like witty plays as well. We saw the early TP around mid lane, catching out Showmaker, and he kind of fakes him out, makes him think he's going to go back topside, comes right back mid, gets another kill, and then just became such a huge monster that Damwon couldn't really deal with.
And honestly, Camille is one of those champions that it just feels like if you're going up against an average top laner, maybe it's not something to worry about, but it just scales so much with player skill that this champion goes from looking, you know, okay to you see the absolute elite top laners playing it, and it just looks so broken. You know, it's not getting punished in lane. It's able to team fight if you're good enough at it. You can take over in a side lane. You can actually, you know, push and roam. You can invade jungle. You can escape ganks. It just starts feeling so broken. But it's going to be really interesting to see if that continues into the best of 5 stage, because I do think it's incredibly strong, but there's also things like Jax and even Fiora. You know, you can go even for more risky counter picks like the Quinn. So I'm going to be really interested to see like where the adaptation comes as all of these top laners left in the tournament are going to be pretty comfortable playing Camille.
There's quite a few stellar ones. In particular, though, a number of them do come from the LPL. And you saw there on the bottom of your screen some of those statistics for Zoom up in the top lane. First and second in CSD and gold difference at 15. I mean, just racking up those early advantages, Raz.
Yeah, and I want to kind of pick Lyric's brain because I love Zoom because how team-oriented he is. Like, a lot of the stats that we've been seeing in his group stage has been based off of how well they've been playing towards him and giving him the resources to perform. But the Zoom I know can play the Ornna as well, can play a lot of teamfight-oriented picks. And then when we talk about the Dumpling brothers, because in team fights, they thrive in them. So for me, it's good to see him on these carry options like Camille because you know how flexible he is as a player.
Well, I think that feeds in. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lyric.
I was going to say, it actually blows my mind that he's only playing like the Camille in these carry style tops like we saw like the Kale earlier. Because as Ran said, back in the LPL, all split long, all year long, was the Orns, the Mordekaisers, the Renekton's that he became a monster on. So maybe that's what JDG is saving for the playoffs.
You gotta hope. You gotta hope. I want to see more of it, some smashes. It just so happens that in that last game of the day, LvMao shows why every second counts with a perfectly timed Bard ult, made possible by the Cisco network. And Raz, I love that you called out the Bard as one of the key champions for LvMao.
It was insane because this was a close pick coming in from Damwon, was able to take down Showmaker that, once again, Damwon never say die. They look for these opportunities to find a way back into the game. He sees it. The channeling taunt from the Galio stops that from happening. And then they can turn it about 10 seconds later into a JDG teamfight win.
I mean, that was pretty much pixel perfect, you know, just catching the very edge of the Alistar and the Galio and not actually catching Yagao in that. Because if he catches him in it, he just gets comboed right out of the Bard ultimate and dies anyway. So, you know, it's these slim margins that can turn Bard from looking like a hero into a zero. And he plays that line so incredibly well. LvMao is definitely one of the best sports in the world and definitely one of the best Bards in the world.
That was one of two impressive Bard ults that he had. Another one on a TP coming in to save a team fight and a skirmish in the bot lane. Let's hear from the man himself as we head over to Lore, who caught up with LvMao.
And thank you very much, Dash. Laure here for the last interview of the day. JD Gaming finally defeats the mighty Damwon, and I have LvMao with me to talk about the victory. Ni hao, and thank you for joining me. You are the first team to defeat Damwon Gaming here, so tell me how you made this happen. What did you identify as the obvious mistakes to target against Damwon?
那首先恭喜你们获得本场比赛的胜利，而且你们也是让之前都未尝一败的 DWG 终于是从他们手中获取了胜利。所以想问一下，你们获胜的一个秘诀是什么？是有发现他们怎么样去击败他们的办法了吗？
因为在第一轮就是我们给到第一轮对阵上他们，我们输掉了，然后给到他们都是非常拿手的英雄，所以我们这次就选择抢或者ban掉他们拿手的英雄，然后在打法上调整一些，就有幸赢了他们一把。
So actually, in the first round, I think in terms of the draft, we just given them the very comfortable draft for Damwon Gaming. So for this round, we just pick or ban their significant pick or the picks that they're comfortable with. So I think that's why we are able to get this lucky victory.
I see. Playing a nice trick from one game to another. Congratulations on that. But focusing on you, LvMao, this is your first time at Worlds. Tell me about your performance so far, and what did you think about JD Gaming in group stage?
那这也是你的第一次世界赛的征程，那你对你的这一段世界赛的旅程到现在为止有什么样的一个评价吗？然后也怎么样去评价现在的一个京东呢？
首先第一次参加世界赛，然后觉得自己的状态没有到特别好。如果调整的特别好的话，我觉得我们队伍是一个很强的队伍。然后打到目前为止，我觉得成绩只能说马马虎虎吧，就不好也不坏，只能说。
I think in terms of my own performance, and this is my first time to stand on this World Championship. I don't think I'm in a very good form, but I think after some modification or adjustments, we are a very strong team. And in terms of the whole JDG, I think our conditions is just okay. I must say it's not that good, but also not that bad.
Okay, so you have time to improve on things for the next week and the next knockout stage, but you advance to the next stage. So far, we have G2, Suning, and Damwon Gaming. What do you think about the competition you're going to have to face in the knockout series?
那么在接下来的8强，你们还会遇到其他的对手。现在 A 组的像苏宁 G2， 然后你们 B 组的 DWG 和你们已经是进入到了8强赛。那你去对接下来的赛事有什么样的自己的一个预测或者看法吗？
别的队伍也行吗？
都可以。
其实挺想看 GTU 打 DWG， 我觉得会是一个很有趣的对决。然后其他到因为分组还没出来嘛，就比较想先看这个。
Because the drawing it hasn't been come out yet, but I really want to see G2 facing Damwon Gaming. I think that will be a very interesting series.
I think it will be a great series as well. But LvMao, Shisha for the interview, and Wendy, thank you very much for the translation as always. And back to you, Dash.
Thank you so much, Laura. It's very interesting to hear LvMao talk about the fact that he doesn't feel they're performing that well currently. So I wonder what they're going to look like when they turn it on, Azael. But also saying he's hoping for that Damwon versus G2 matchup.
I don't think that G2 is hoping for that matchup. So it's interesting to see the different perspectives there, you know.
Of course. But Lyric, I want to come back to you on the topic of the fact that JD is a 2 seed coming out of groups, because again, the conversation is that this is possibly a top 3 or a finals team here for Worlds, and yet they are going to have to face a 1 seed in the quarterfinals. Their road will be tough.
I know I'm an LPL caster, but I'm kind of happy that JDG finished second because we never got to see JDG versus Suning in playoffs. They were on opposite sides of the bracket. JDG qualified 2 Worlds from making finals, and I think this will be a super fun match, especially with Suning right now. I actually think looking better than JDG at Worlds so far, and definitely adapting to the meta much better.
We got to stop this. No more team kills.
JDG versus top round 3?
No more LPL team kills. Stop it. Every time at Worlds, it's always an LPL team kill. I can't have more of this.
Yeah, it's major sus. Caught him taking the vents. Anyway, within all of this, it's very, again, I think it's very intriguing to listen to LvMao talk and almost downplay, I think, the impressiveness of that team. Again, Lyric, if you were to point out anything, actually, in that recent point you just made there, where you feel Suning is outperforming JD Gaming right now, what is the piece of JD that isn't up to par, or would you expect to turn on come knockout stage?
So the draft is definitely the big one for me, but even things like reset timings around objectives, I feel like JDG have just been a step slower than they were in the LPL. We even saw in this Damwon game, there were just a lot of times with Dragons. I remember the first Baron that Damwon went for, that JDG just weren't ready. They weren't prepared. Their resets were 1 camp too late or 1 wave too late. And small adjustments like that are going to be very important going into knockouts.
Yeah, for me, the level 1s have been like hammered in throughout this entire tournament. It was a staple of yesterday's games, and for JD versus Damwon and versus PSG, the level 1s have been what has been breaking Kanavi. So I think the early game has also kind of been a quote-unquote weakness for JDG in this tournament. So I think if their level 1s are not as hectic, even if it's just as even, JDG's happening and they play to what their strengths have been in later game team fights.
Alrighty, this team excites me, and I think we will leave it there. Lyric, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on 2 out of 2 LPL teams making it through so far. Just waiting on Top Esports to do the same.
Always a pleasure, gentlemen.
All right, I'm sure we'll see you again
Not
soon.
even counting LGD.
Oh my goodness! I still have it stuck in my brain that only 3 teams from any region go to Worlds. Thank you for calling me out on that, Azael. We're going for 4 of 4, Lyric, LGD tomorrow, and Top Esports the following day. We're stepping away. On the other side, there's more Worlds Cooldown. I'm so embarrassed. Welcome back to Worlds Cooldown, presented by State Farm. Now it's time to say our goodbyes to a couple of teams exiting the tournament, and we're going to start with PSG. They made today interesting in the sense that they denied us what we thought was going to be some tiebreakers, either to qualify or for first place.
Are we congratulating them for that?
I don't know. I mean, that it's great for them. Not.
I know. I'm kidding. I was actually really excited because River and Tank both had some great games, and they were people that had a bit of a spotlight on them after play-ins with how well their substitutes had done. So the fact that they came in and actually were huge in picking up 2 of their wins today, I was really excited to see that. And I think they should leave with a pretty positive note, all things considered. Finishing above a major region team in groups is not a small accomplishment for one of these teams.
Yeah, I was really happy that they at least had that one game for that exact reason. Because it must really suck for the team, of course, being under the circumstances that they were in going into play-ins, not having to play with the members that they've practiced with the entire year, or at least like for a good amount of time. And then for Tank and, of course, River to be drop-shipped into games like these, it sucks. It does, just flatly said. And then they finally got to show the world their worth when they went up against JD. So that game will have like good memories for them, like good value coming forward.
Drop shipping into World's group stage sounds kind of fun to me, Azael.
That sounds good.
StarCraft, what's going on?
Yeah, I don't know.
It sounds kind of nice, but honestly, like I was kind of worried for the main roster players, because we might not be thinking about it because we're not examining this team like as closely as something we didn't think was going to get groups, and B, PCS is not a region that the English language broadcast follows as closely, right? So it's one of those things where I think, when you have people step in for you and sub for you and then win all these games in the play-in, and then you come back in as the main roster, if you went 0-6, you're going to be getting roasted by the PCS fans, and maybe your teammates even lose some confidence in you, even though the level of competition is wildly different, right? Like you're having to play up against Damwon and JDG compared to some of the teams that were in play-in. It's worlds apart here. It's maybe the world champion versus, teams that were the bottom play-in. So, they had incredibly hard competition, and I think that they actually really did show up and prove that they are international caliber players, that they can really scrap with some of the big dogs, so to speak. So I think for them that's like a huge personal victory, and I think it's a victory for their region to have the number 2 team from the PCS come here, beat EU, beat LPL. That's pretty hype.
Yeah, at risk of like kind of echoing the same sentiment, I'm glad that because I thought coming into group stage that these 2 players were set up to fail, but they came in and they put in strong performances, at least in the very tail end of it. So that was good to see that. And I'm just happy to see players like, Kaiwing and Hanabi just play and perform well throughout the tournament. And I'll start with Kaiwing, because in play-ins, the man was a boss. Like his Bard pick was just solo carrying these team fights for his squad. And even though like he went up against the like much tougher competition, you didn't get to necessarily see him shine, he still came up with this like great leadership and when to charge for these fights. So I'm really glad to see Kaiwing on the world stage.
Yeah, I think he was one of the big factors that was consistent throughout the tournament. I mean, he didn't pick up any kills on the Lux, but he was pretty aggressive in being able to set his team up with such a great early game, and then harassing, keeping control of the game against JDG, and being able to stack dragons and have a pretty clean game. And I think oftentimes supports are really critical in those kinds of controlled wins that kind of go down. So I was super impressed with Kaiwing.
That's where I want to put a spotlight on another mainstay for the roster in Hanabi. Let's talk about this guy, Zale.
Yeah, I mean, I think he had a pretty solid showing. His stats, obviously, are not doing him any favors here. People are going to look at that and I think, kind of think pretty negatively about him. But he had a ridiculously tough group as far as top laners go. You have Zoom, you have Nuguri, you have like these ridiculously talented guys who are both kind of in the conversation for potentially best top laner in the world that you're going up against. And at the end of the day, it may not have always been pretty, but he was able to get the job done, I think, against some of the world's best.
Without a doubt, right? And I think I want to re-hit the point that you mentioned there, Zale. The fact that this team finished above another major region as the 2nd seed from the PCS, right? This isn't even the 1st seed. So they've outperformed the 1st seed from their own region in terms of record and placement within their group. And in my personal opinion, did it in a tougher group.
Yeah, I think taking down JDG should not be understated how crazy that was. And, you know, I kind of mentioned it before. It was a bit of a snowball in the early game, but then JDG had actually closed the gold lead to about a little under 1,000 by the time they won that Drake fight and into the Baron. And so that's what's super impressive to me was this was not like, oh my God, JDG turbo into the entire game. They gave up some early kills for them, and Talon used that to control the game and get the dragons and then move that to Baron. It was all actually a pretty clean game out of them. Whereas I feel like a lot of times when people talk about BCS and LMS and some of these other regions picking up wins against major region teams, it's because they did something crazy, Nocturne, bot, or lane swap kind of stuff. They didn't cheese this win. They just outplayed JDG for a full 30-minute game.
And we actually saw like a number of other games where some of the like not favored teams got some early kills, but they couldn't close, right? Machi, even another team, from PCS when they were going up against Suning, they had that one game where they killed 369 in top lane, or excuse me, like a bunch of times, right? And we had these games. It wasn't 369, excuse me, but where they actually got a bunch of early kills and couldn't convert it, right? And we have seen the other end of that. So I don't think that when you are playing against these incredible teams at the very top level, that a couple kills at level 1 guarantees you a victory by any means.
Yeah, would have been Bin on Suning. Now, today's State Farm Assist of the Day is going to one of those drop ship players, as they'll now be known, PSG River, who stopped JDG with a perfectly timed Lamb's Respite.
Yeah, this one was important because they had a lead coming into this tournament and coming into this game, thank you. But it was a fantastic play from Yagao that would have turned the fight, which was a great Baron run from PSG. That ultimate from Kindred saved them, and it ultimately got them a kill on Yagao as well. So being able to shut Yagao down from pulling JD back into this game and back into like first place contention within the group, theoretically, I think was insane.
Yeah, that was the engage where I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
JDG's back into the game. I wanted to believe in PSG, but it's not going to happen. And then the fact that he got that ult off and was able to turn that fight was like, oh my God, they're actually going to win this game.
Yeah, stellar play to knock JD down a peg. Now, finally, let's talk about the 3 seed from the LEC, Rogue. Unfortunately, exiting the tournament as the 4th place spot here in Group B.
And I think they're going to be pretty disappointed with their performance, honestly. No one, I think, expected them to actually get out because they had these 2 absolute behemoths. But, finishing at the bottom of the standings is not where I think people expected them. There was maybe some expectations of trying to steal a game from Damwon or steal a game from JDG, try to make it a little bit more competitive, try to get something going on there. But I just didn't feel like it really came together for Rogue. We had some strong individual performances, but it didn't feel like they were working as well together as a team as we saw them, especially in the regular season in the LEC, where this team really was dominant in best of ones, and there was some hope that maybe they could bring that level of success here into the Worlds Group stage.
Yeah, and for me, what I'm afraid of is, the last taste is usually what you remember the most. Like, the last few games didn't look good for Rogue for sure, but at least the first games that they had in the beginning of the group I was impressed with, right? Their first game versus PSG, they had great, their mid game was fantastic. Their early game planning was great. And then when they went up against the teams like Damwon, I felt as though that they had actually prepared quite well versus them as well. And they were dragging out these games. And even though they only had that one win, I felt like they had combative games that was like back and forth. They just, it didn't work out for them as they were scaling in the group, which of course sucks. But if they think about the whole experience, I think they'll be pleased with how they started out the group.
Yeah, I think it's still tough, though, because I was ready after the first round, like you're saying, they look so impressive, to be like, oh, this is the team that I feel really bad for, because if they were in Group A or Group C, one of these other spots where the other European teams were, maybe they still would have gotten out. I feel a lot less confident saying that now after today and seeing their struggles. And so it is a little bad. It feels a little bad to say that, but it definitely was a disappointing performance for them. But like Azale was saying, there were still some players who competed pretty hard against some of the best teams in the world, so you can at least say like this felt like a team issue that came to light in the last day, more so than like player gaps or anything.
Yeah, for me, the setup was really important for this team. So Inspired, I think, was a really smart jungler, and keeping himself up in par against one of the best junglers in the tournaments, of course. And then on top of that, being able to set up for objectives. And it wasn't just a one-man play. It felt like both Inspired and Vander did a great job in working together. That's what really got them a lot of the advantages that they did, or made like their solo laners look really not even I wouldn't say look good, but like prop them up well so they can go into the mid game and late game team fights and perform. I was really impressed with Inspired and Vander. I think Vander had a decent tournament as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you're hoping this is something that they can learn from, right, and that they can build upon this, because this is a team that I think has a lot of promise. We saw just how good they can be, in the LEZ regular season, but it was an incredibly difficult group.
Without a doubt. I think for the organization should be very happy with the way they, closed out their season. It's, a first-time Worlds appearance for Rogue as an organization. A lot of these players can still be proud of the performance they put up. And then, as you said, Azael, very excited to see what comes next year in the LEC for them. Now, moving on, today's Was Asleep, Didn't Watch. It's going to Raz. Raz is going to give us his 1 minute on Group B and how they closed it out. Raz, the time is yours.
There we go. And I love the fact that we've been talking topics with these sections right now, because for me, this group, at least for today, was sectioned between the Kings and the Fighters. The Kings, for sure, you look towards JD and Damwon. Damwon looked exceptional throughout the group.
Oh, no. It appears that we lost Raz. I think he was just trying to get out of doing 60 seconds straight. It's really what it was. That's what it feels like to me.
Full kick the router, get out.
Yeah,
Raz is actually asleep.
What a stake. Actually, he's still going, too. All right, so while Raz is going, Mark, tell me what he's saying.
Oh, God, lip reading. He's talking about how he's so disappointed in Europe, and he's saying that, he's still an LPL fan at heart, and he's disappointed JDG didn't get the tiebreaker. He thinks that...
I don't like Mark's version. Azael, what's your version?
He really wanted to emphasize that his three co-hosts here on the desk are just incredibly handsome, have a wealth of knowledge and experience, and really are just industry-shaping figures here,
I like this version a lot
say
more.
That he felt like we should all be nominated in every single category at the Esports Awards.
Perfect.
And I'm inclined to agree with him. So, thank you very much, Raz.
Yeah.
Very, very sweet of you.
I love how long Raz was still
He kept going, man.
Audio. Like, I can't tell. Raz is kind of person. I can't tell if he...
Commitment, man. I love it.
Did he not know, or did he know? And he was like, I'm still going. If they take me sound full again, I'm still going.
It's a 60-second recap, and it took him 5 minutes to notice that he was gone.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
He was in his own.
But hey, Raz, trust us when we say we believe everything you said was pure brilliance, okay? Just everything you said, we truly believe was pure brilliance.
I think he was going to say that JDG gets the FPX award for underperforming a little bit in groups, but will be monsters and best of fives. That's what I think. That's my own opinion that I've inserted into Raz's.
You know what? I am going to second your opinion for Raz. So there it is. Now it's canon. Let's take a look at what Worlds has cooking for us tomorrow as we close out Group B and we look towards Group C. First, we'll see the standings. Gen G, Fnatic, and LGD all sit at 2-1, with TSM unfortunately down there at 0-3. Without control of their own destiny, they need to win 3 and rely on some others. So again, I think this group is very interesting because you come into the day with 3-way tie, obviously only 2 slots to get out.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting, right? I think people are still hoping, from the NA's perspective, that TSM will be able to turn something around, but it is going to be incredibly difficult. I had Gen G as the favorites coming into this group. I still believe that is true. Fnatic has looked good. LGD, I think, has bounced back very strong coming out of the play-in, so I think this is going to be one of the most exciting groups to be able to finish it off. It is not likely to be decided early on in the day as we had happen today. So, I am really, really pumped for this. I think it's going to be a banger.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Anything can happen. TSM technically, I believe, still has control of their fate in if they win all 3 games, they can get a tiebreaker. And then if they 4-0 the day, they get out. They're in the group with Fnatic, the only other team who has ever done that before. And they, they actually came back from 0-4. So, time to start praying to whatever gods it is that Fnatic worships, because TSM's going to need the same help. And I think LGD is the big wild card for me. After having such a poor play-ins performance, to see that bounce back is is pretty crazy.
Yeah, taking a look at the schedule, the slate of games that we have ahead of us, Fnatic, TSM to kick it off, then LGD versus Gen G. To your point there, Mark, as a quote-unquote wild card, I think as the toughest team to kind of pin down in their power level, that game in and of itself, game 2, is going to be very telling for whether or not LGD is going to break into that top 2 and either shove Gen G or Fnatic out.
And honestly, even if TSM doesn't get out, even if they lose that first game, they could actually still be the team that ends up deciding the group oftentimes, because if you're going to be the team at the bottom, you can drag someone down with you. you can pull that blue shell, knock down one of these teams, because if LGD and Fnatic and Gen G are all going blow for blow and staying tied up near the top, the team that decides it could be whoever loses to TSM if someone does.
Yeah. Raz, you back?
Yes, I'm back. The world didn't want to see my preach. That's fine. I'm okay with it. We can move forward now. I just wanted to echo the point that this Group C, you have to watch tomorrow. It is actually just so exciting to watch. LGD, as you were saying, ramping up. Fnatic, I think, is the team that can always bring more in terms of strategy. Like, we've seen so much from them within the playoffs in LEC, and then coming in, they could play literally any comp. Like, guaranteed, I feel like they're going to get Lucian and Evelyn banned against them. So they won't have those necessarily. But they're a team that has always kind of concocted something new in the pick ban. So I want to see what they have ready for us.
All right, there you have it. Group C coming at you tomorrow. The only thing I want to go back and verify is Raz, do you agree with what Mark said about your 1 minute?
Oh, no. What did he say?
Oh,
I missed it.
I don't know, Raz. Do you agree or not?
I don't trust that man. I disagree.
Okay. All right, tell me this. Do you agree with what Azale said?
Yes, he's a trustable face.
Yes!
Most trusted face in esports.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been confirmed. Okay, that's going to do it for us here on the broadcast. We're going to see you all tomorrow for Group C, a hype group. So for myself, the cast, the remote broadcast crews from all around the world, thank you for watching. Get some rest. We'll see you next time for more Worlds.